Welcome to Austin Community College. This is class 13 of the advanced woodworking class. Tonight we're going to glue up the side table. We have one more step to perform before we're actually ready. We need to biscuit join the top frame to the sides. So we're going to take care of that first, and then we'll go through our checklist and make sure that we've got everything ready. The connection of the top frame to the side subassembly is a long grain to long grain joint, which is really the strongest joint you could hope for. We just need a way to align them and to protect against any sort of shear strength. So this frame sits exactly flush with the top of that side assembly. Just like that. So if we take a number 20 biscuit and space them across this, that will give us our lineup and our shear strength. The lower frame plugs in just 4 inches below with these deep mortise and tenon joints. So you've got tremendous strength holding the cabinet together. Well, let's do the layout. We're going to put this first biscuit about 1 3/4 away from that front edge. That way we don't chance blowing out the front rail. Come over 1 3/4. Let's put the next one at 6. It gives us plenty of room between those so they don't overlap. We'll just do the same thing on this other side. 1 3/4, 6. So basically our biscuits will look like that. Now if we stand this up and line it up with where it actually goes, how do we tell that? We've cut these drawer runners to the same shoulder to shoulder length here. So we line those guys up, and now we can just carry those marks down. And while we're at it, let's just transfer that to the other side. We'll line them up and just carry these marks. Now you can see it'll be easy to transfer these marks to there by just lining up this guy with this guy like that. We're now ready to set up. We're going to vise these things so that we can biscuit joint them. The next step is going to be to biscuit the top frame. The thing to remember is to keep that plate joiner flat on there. It's always exciting when it comes time to glue up a piece that you've been working on We put hours and hours into the creation of these sub-assemblies and parts, and now we're going to get to see it all come together. Now we've gathered all the parts here, we've laid them out easily so that they can be picked up and placed in once the glue is spread. Bottom slats are in order. The biscuits for the top frame are easily at hand. Water for cleanup is here. The glue is here. The clamping cauls are here. So it's time now to spread glue and let the drama begin. Red dot. Got a red dot there.
Got a red dot here.
Oh my. This is it. This is one of those cases where I'm only going to put glue on the tenon and not in the mortise. I know that's unusual. The reason is these are through wedged tenons. I'll lift that up and see if I can go ahead and bottom those out. There we go. That one's a little bit stubborn. Sky's falling. Okay, that looks good. Again, we're just going to glue the tenon on this lower frame. We have this long grain to long grain joint here we can utilize. We'll lay a bead across here. Lovely. Biscuits now. I talked about these biscuits as being really a line-up device and providing shear strength. This connection could be a lot of different things. You could do mortise and tenon. I generally don't like to get mortises that close to the end grain. And most of our strength is really coming from that through tenon right there. I've got to pick up that frame over there, and I really don't want to spread glue all over it. This guy's going to plug in just like that, so we're going to spread our glue here. Just a little bead right at the entry. And then the long grain here. I'm going to stay away from the inside because I really don't want a lot of glue squeezing out in this area. where the wax is, where the drawer is going to run. But if we get a nice coat here, that should give us a good joint. Very good. Let's start spreading these. We're going to basically follow exactly the same sequence we did. On the other side. Trying to avoid keeping glue close to that inside area where the drawers are going to run. I mean, we may get a little squeeze out there. We'll need to clean it up. Come around the back side. And a bead of glue across this long grain. There we go. You notice I'll pick up the excess glue from one side and spread it to the other side. Just always trying to avoid this thing of just having a massive amount of squeeze out to clean up. I do want glue on the sides of this because they are going to impact the mortise there. All right. I'm not panicked yet. You doing okay? Good. This is where you hope you really haven't forgotten something. Start that first mortise and just sort of feeding on down. I'm started in all of those. Oh, beautiful. Pop out here. Oh, isn't that nice? Look at that. Okay. Who took my mallet? Oh, here's another one. Because we've got these through tenons, I'm going to use this clapping caul to drive this a little further home. Beautiful. Man, that looks good. All right, let's stand this thing up. Yes, like that. Starting to look like a side table, right? We'll see if these through tenons will conveniently hold these clamping coils in place for us. I spoke too soon. Get some tape. This is where you'd ask your apprentice to hold that in place. Cameraman's busy. Stay. Magic. Remember, we want to stay off of any of the finished parts. I made these clamping coils where they will hold the clamps off of that. That's kind of convenient. Very nice. I'm adjusting these clamps to close this joint as I see. I'm looking at the open spots, and that looks very, very nice. I don't need that anymore. One more in the middle. There we go. Bear with me for a minute. I'm going to chop these off. Oh my, very nice. You remember, you want to keep these clamps parallel across because you can actually tweak a cabinet out of square by angling the clamp like that. Really not quite closing at the top. I'm going to move the pressure up. Just have just a tiny little gap up at the top. Move the pressure up and see if that solves it for us. Yeah. Those biscuits were really tight. But the neat thing about them is once you get them closed, they really stay there. So I call that shocking a joint. If you put clamping pressure on it and then you tap it continuously, it'll allow it to close better. And so that brought that up pretty good. That's my dog. She's over there and she's not helping a bit. still a little bit open. I'd love to see that close up a little better. I may try an auxiliary clamp. It closes so easy with just a little pressure. I'm thinking it's fine. The joints look really good. Of course, my eyes are not as good as they used to be either. We ended up with a little more squeeze out than I would have liked on this inside, on that wax. And the way I'm going to deal with that, we're going to let it start to congeal a bit. So about 20 minutes from now, I'll come back with a sharp wooden stick and push it out, and then Scotch-Brite follow behind it. So what it's time to do now is to drive wedges. We'll have to make room to be able to do that. I had mortised these clamping cauls larger than the tenon itself. And they tend to want to just slide down. So that's what I'm doing. I'm moving them up so to let that tenon expand in both directions. Maybe it would have been smart to tape these on to start with. Never hurts to be prepared. That joint stayed closed, but we'll put a little pressure back on it just to ensure it stays there while we're driving wedges. We're going to have to do, well, that one's out of the way. That one's not. Let's see if this will stay now that it's closed. It did. That's reassuring. I'm going to do the same thing and raise these clamping cauls just a little bit. Let's put a little pressure on that again, just to keep it there while that glue dries and while we drive the wedges. Yep, nice. I don't really want a lot of glue on these. I'll dabble the end of it like that and just sort of spread that back and forth. That's really more than I need. It's just a thin layer we're looking for. Is that cool or what? I'm going to get a little stick and maybe drive them a little further. Nice. Oh yeah. I can see that it expanded to fill that space. Actually tightened into that opening. It's dark down in there. I struggled with just how much room to leave here. Wanted enough to be strong. I'm going to cut this down a little more. That's better. Oh, nice. That allowed me to push that in a little further. Through wedge tenons add a lot of time to a project, but they're such a nice detail. For those of you that are counting, there are 4,000 wedges in this piece. There we go. Now, as you're going to see in a later video, the work has only begun. The finishing out of these really takes some time. You might be wondering how I know when to stop hammering, and I don't know if you can hear it, but you can hear it when that wedge has reached. It just starts sounding more solid. You know that it's spread all the way to the end of its opening. That's a little 7-ounce hammer, just about perfect for a job like that. Predictably enough, it's called a cabinet hammer. Two more to go. This is probably the point where you've decided that you're not going to do through wedge tenons. But I encourage you to wait to see the finished product. All right, so it's time for cleanup now. And we're going to inspect the whole piece. See where the trouble spots are and clean up. I've got some glue squeeze out on this surface. And it's being extremely stubborn, but I got it. I'm going to do one last clear pass here to make sure I've got it all. Okay. If it's a small enough bead, you can sometimes lift it out with a sharp chisel. Be careful not to cut the wood. Just slipping in behind it. That was a tiny little bead. Okay. Let's do a closer inspection here. Ooh, I still need to hit that one again. Great. We have, as I mentioned before, we have squeeze out on these waxed areas of glue. So the glue is not going to stick very well to those waxed areas, but we need to get it out of there while it's still soft. I've made a couple of sharp wooden wedges. I can slide along that edge and scrape the glue out. I bet we can let go of this. Let's get it out of the way. So that's just about the perfect amount of time to wait on that, where the glue has coagulated. It's no longer liquid. It's a kind of a gel, and it'll just roll right off of that waxed surface. You do want to remember to check this kind of thing, because when you go to fit a drawer, you'll find out real quick that a bead of glue can be very deceiving. You wonder why that drawer's sticky right there. Come around the other side to get the front. That was a joint that wanted to open back up. Of course, with those wedges in place now, I doubt anything will be moving. Well, I want to take this time to thank my cameraman, Camilla Kolka, who should be at work. I guess I owe his boss for his time. And the rest of the staff, my wife for feeding me, and my dog for keeping me company. We have one last spot to check, and that's underneath. I should flip it over, but I'm just going to peer underneath and see what it looks like. Oh, well, I'm out of luck. I've got to turn it over because there's glue there. Now, the neat thing about this is that this thing is glued together. It's not going anywhere. So, see if I can lift these out. They're pretty big. I was able to lift it out, but I made a mess. I'm going to have to use water to clean that up. It's just a little too big of a bead, and it was wet on the inside, so when I ruptured it, it spread. That one came out. Ta-da! All right. Cue the compressor. Yeah, take a look at those through wedge tenons. The next thing that will happen is we'll mask all the way around this guy and polish this out into a nice feature.